Hello everybody! You're probably wondering where I am again. But haven't we met before? Yeah, I know that's a crappy intro, but who cares? We'll get better as we go. First off, we're here with the Unholy Dk Beginner Guide. For those of you who don't know. And yes, if I sound familiar, I do have another account that I did have these videos on, but I decided to put them on a different account for reasons that I fucked up with my other account. Yay me. So we're going over the talents and the overview of Unholy Dk, because this is my main spec. I probably know a lot about this spec, and a healthy obsession with the spec, and we can continue from there. First off, let's start with your talents. For your first tier, level 56, if you're leveling, I would go with All Will Serve, but after, somewhere around when you start doing Legion, maybe WAD content, I would change it for Bursting Swords for the sheer fact that it's a lot more AoE damage, and it's a lot more synergy with your mastery than All Will Serve will have, though the extra pet and the no cooldown on your pet is a good thing in my opinion. I still think the wound popping is more, and it synergizes with your artifact weapon, which we'll be going into in the intermediate guide rather than the beginner guide, because it's more of just you're learning the spec, you don't want to learn much about it, you just want to understand what base it's of. Your next talent, I would pick Resilient Pustules. I also have problems saying that name, which means that every 6 wounds you pop, you gain 1 rune. And in the next patch, they're nerfing our artifact weapon to only burst 6, which means that a full pop of Apocalypse won't pop you 2 if you do a trick that I'm going to show you in the intermediate guide again. But if you're leveling, I would either go with Bladed Ruin Weapon, Epidemic. All these are good. Epidemic's a bit more. It's kind of like how old Fire and Over worked with old enhancement shamans and WAD. And that's about it. Bladed Ruin Weapon is just auto attack based. It's good for initiating free wounds on a boss, but I still like this better. Level 58, when you get your actual main talents you have to pick from for the 3 main factions of Unholy Dk, which is Unholy Frenzies, Cascaders, and Clawing Shadows. I go Clawing Shadows for the sheer fact that Cascader is a crit-based thing, and it's a chance. Like, you can crit on, no attacks and just do nothing, or you can just go with your pure mastery. Like my DK is right now. Clawing Shadows will make your ability a ranged ability, which means that if a boss moves and your pustules are about to pop, you don't need to run over too quick or use a movement speed buff to get over there. You just pop them as you walk. And it's pure shadow damage, rather than Scourge Strike being physical and shadow. So it scales a little bit harder, mine's almost hitting 80k per use, and that's pretty fucking good. When you hit 60, the only good talent to pick is Sludge Belcher. This is literally just a worse version of Chains of Frost, and we get that anyway. Asphyxiate, I would argue, is a good thing to have, but your Belcher will have a stun, and a non-demand stun when I do the intermediate guide. And for 75 is the weird talent tree, or talent selection, where all of these are actually really good. Soul Eater is really great on a lot of fights because it makes your anti-magic shield stronger and lasts longer. Corpse Shield, really good because you can just macro this with the one that makes your ghoul take less damage, and with Sludge Belcher it's a lot more, so it means it's not going to die as often. And it's only 90% of the damage, so it's not really going to take all the damage in one go. It won't die, I mean. But if it does die, 30 seconds respawn time. Which is fine, because you can, pop this, and then if it's, died because of it, it's okay, fine then, I'll just get this off cooldown before this comes back. I take Lingering Apparition because you move faster during Wraith Walk, and it lasts, and its cooldown is reduced by 50 seconds. So it's a really nice little move out of the way thing. I know in Nightmare and the Thalia fight, I've used it all the time, just to get away from the group faster, and it'll be almost all cooldown before the next one. And the next tier, again, all of these are kind of good. I wouldn't take Necrosis over anything, just because of what's that I'm going to say in the intermediate guide. But I do take Shadow Infusion for the less cooldown on your Dark Transformation. Your ghoul does a good chunk of AoE damage if you spam out multiple ghouls with the Dark Transformation, and this makes it so that you can pop it on a mob pack and have it ready for a boss fight, and have it ready multiple times in the boss fight, because you're going to generate a lot of runic power with the rotation. Infected Claws also is really good, but there's no pet attack speed increases. I would think that if Blizzard changed this to have your pet gain the attack speed, this would be a lot higher in the tier list, and I would change over to Unholy Frenzy. And now for the last tier. Sadly, this only has really 2 okay things, and both of them are just, like, you don't want them, but they're stupidly stupid. Dark Arbiter, it replaces your Gargoyle, and it only lasts, well, it only lasts 15 seconds, and your Gargoyle lasts 45, so you're losing 30 seconds of, it's not even 35, it's 40. So you're losing 35 seconds of Gargoyle damage, but per runic power spend, it increases the damage it does. Okay. That's fine. I actually thought it was a good talent until I found out later it wasn't. Defile places your D&D. Sure, it increases your mastery while you're standing in it, and sure, it's a good thing to have, but really, mastery is probably one thing you want to have a lot of before you have Defile, because you need a cap on mastery. I mean, it's just like, it's cool, it's damage, but like, if you don't have any kind of the other stats, you're kind of just not going to be able to use it that well. And this is why I picked Soul Reaper, which is Haste. Haste is really great. It's a 200 and just a really hard-hitting ability up front, but it has a nice effect of leaving a debuff on the enemy. So if you pop 3 festering wounds within the 15 seconds, you get 7% haste per wound 3 times. So that's really good. That's a 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 21% increased haste. That literally is double my haste. So I have 42% haste. It's really great. So first off, let's start off with the basic rotation of Unholy Dk. First off, pull out your pet. Go up to your enemy, and do 1, 2. You want to get 6. Hit Soul Reaver, Apocalypse. This makes it so that when you just dump the Death Coil power, you're back to full, and you continue your rotation from there. The haste makes your GCD a lot better, and you can spam out more. You don't want to use your Clawing Shadows or Cascader when you have no wounds on the target, because it won't do much damage. But if the target's getting away with Clawing Shadows and you can't get in time to reapply Festering Wounds, it's not that bad to do it, but that's about it. Also, if I just forgot, apply your debuffs. You have a debuff, it's really great. That's your rotation with abilities, and you're probably wondering what those abilities do. Let's go over those real quick. First off, Festering Strike. Is a really high physical damage dealing ability, which means it won't go up with your mastery, sadly, but also infect your target with 2 to 4 Festering Wounds, which means it's kind of RNG based on how much you get per Festering Strike pop. Sometimes you get like 4/4 and you don't have to spend all your ruins. Sometimes you get 2/2 and you have to spend more. That's how the cookie crumbles. But the real interesting is, it applies Festering Wounds. It's a little debuff that pops with Scourge Strike or Clawing Shadows, dealing 63k, almost 64k shadow damage, and generating 3 runic power per pop. That's a lot of runic power. This is your main debuff applier, but not your debuff damager, and Festering Wounds is one of your higher damage dealers, but then again, it's not always your highest damage dealer. Scourge Strike or Clawing Shadows, tongue-tied there, causes 1 Festering Wound to burst. It's almost hitting for 80k on me, like I said, and it only causes 1 to burst. If you Cascader, it can cause 2 to 4 crit. Death Coil is your main runic power dump, and it does shadow damage and restores 10 energy to your ghoul. Energy lets him use his abilities, like his little thing there, his attack. So the more energy he has, the more he does, and when he's Dark Transformation, it's a big stomp of AoE. Outbreak, it's just a shadow damage dot that infests everyone around him. And it has a chance to erupt to deal nice little pop damage. For other utilities, these are like your 4 damaging abilities, by the way. For utilities, you have Death Strike, which is your heal, 10% of maximum health. A minimum 10% of your maximum health. So if you take some damage and like a really big burst of damage and you Death Strike, it will heal you a good chunk. But if you just want to use it for its proc of resetting when it kills a target, it'll just heal you 10%. Soul Reaper, discussed about this. Good talent, solid talent. Really wish that the haste was kind of buffed with something else besides your own haste. Death and Decay, you just put it on the ground to shadow damage, and it makes all the enemies inside of it get hit by your clawing shadows. Or Scourge Strike. I wish there was a way where you can actually spread your wounds to other targets, but you can't, so I'm guessing that's probably a good way to buff or nerf Unholy DKs before the Legion. This is your interrupt stuff. Gargoyle. There's a gargoyle. It does damage. It flies down. Affected by haste, by the way. So if you're gonna pop a full haste gargoyle, pop it last. Army of the Dead. A really good ability. Really great to use after your artifact ability, because then you get 2 rounds of ghouls, which is more damage over a certain amount of time. And that's about it. Anti-magic shell for the spell immunity and damage absorption. Icebound Fortitude for the stun prevention and damage reduction. Wraithwalk for your movement speed and everything else. And Dark Transformation. I'm sorry, Dark Transformation. I am sorry. Transforms you into Abomination. Transforms your Abomination into a thing. It does a lot of damage. Looks like this. 1 minute cooldown. A lot less if you start spamming this. But that only counts, and I should say this talent right here only counts after it's ended. So if you want to, like, wait, it's fine, but that's about it. Other than that, you got Death Grip, you got your Taunt, you got nothing else really to worry about for your damage rotation that I know of. You have passives, I might as well go over the passives. Dark Sensor is when you kill an enemy that uses experience or honor. Death Strike is free for the next couple seconds, and it does 100% increased healing. Your Mastery is Dreadblade, which increases all shadow damage. You get a mount speed boost. Runic Corruption is just when you spend Runic Power, you get Rune Recharge rate by 100%. Sudden Doom is your Death Coil. It is pretty fun. Alright, that's the Unholy DK Beginner Guide. I will see you guys next time in the advanced video, where I show you a bit of tricks you can do to make the Unholy DK a bit stronger than the normal.